The magic is about gone between corporate America and conservatives. We're going to talk about that in just a moment with former Virginia Congressman Dave Bratt, now Dean at the Liberty School of Business. But first, some important policy developments, especially for our friends in Missouri. Now, last year, you'll remember that Arkansas became the first state in the nation to pass comprehensive legislation to protect vulnerable minors, children under the age of 18, from experimental gender transition procedures while also ensuring that government never uses your tax dollars to pay for these experiments that will damage the lives of the next generation. Well, Family Research Council has been a strong advocate for legislation like Arkansas's Save Adolescents from Experimentation Act, or SAFE Act for short. And we're now working in Missouri, where a version of the SAFE Act is currently being considered. Joining me now to discuss the importance of the SAFE Act and give us a readout on the status there in Missouri is Arkansas State Representative Robin Lundstrum, who has been in Missouri working with lawmakers there. Representative Lundstrum, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back. Yes, I've been on the ground in Missouri, and we have some legislators that are working very hard there to pass the SAFE Act, and they need some help from Missourians on the ground.
Well, let's talk about that. First, is there any difference between Arkansas's SAFE Act and Missouri's SAFE Act?
They had to modify it just a tiny bit to make it match Missouri law as far as ability to sue after 5 years. Missouri has some differences, but it's very close to the Arkansas law, and I think they've done a good job. Now it's just a matter of getting it out of the General Laws Committee, and that vote happens Monday night at 6 o'clock. So it's critical that Missouri acts now. And it's also waiting on the Senate floor to be brought up for a vote. And we need folks in Missouri to be calling their senators and saying, why aren't we voting for the SAFE Act? We've got to protect children. And we need Missouri folks to be calling their House reps.
So the bill, as I understand it, there'll be a vote in the House committee on Monday. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Monday at 6 o'clock in the General Laws Committee, they will vote whether or not to send this to the House floor. And we need folks in Missouri to be calling their state reps in general law and saying, we've got your back. Please vote for the SAFE Act.
So I think as I've been informed, there's a couple that are actually supporting the bill that we know, Bill Hardwick, Brad Pollitt, but then there's some that are unknown. Josh Holbert, I believe, and in fact, his phone number is, by the way, if you're in Missouri, here's his phone number, 573-751-9760. This will all be at the website, tonyperkins.com, as well. And there's some that have they come out opposed to this bill?
Yes, I think every Democrat on that committee has come out opposed to that bill, and the Republicans have they've either said they're going to support it or they're a little uncomfortable. And so they need some encouragement and to know the people back home. As you know, when you get in the Capitol, liberals sometimes have a very loud voice and it gets to be in that echo chamber. But when you get back home, common sense prevails. So they need to hear from people back home where common sense is in good supply. So they're back home this weekend and they need to hear from people.
Absolutely. I can tell you from experience that hearing from your constituents, number one, when you're prone to do the right thing, it's encouraging, but it's also good, I know, for those who might be inclined to do the wrong thing to hear from their constituents. And this is an important measure. And as Robin, as I understand it, the Senate's kind of waiting to see what the House does with this before they move forward?
Actually, they run the bills in tandem, and the Senate. It's great that it's gotten to the Senate calendar, but it's way down on the calendar. They really don't want to have to deal with this, and it needs to be pushed up the calendar. We've got a great Senate sponsor in Mike Moon. There are some senators that have some courage, and I think they would vote for it if it came to the floor. There are some senators that would like to see this killed, and they plan on filibustering. And that's kind of sad that they're planning on filibustering. So I think the Republicans have the votes. And I think there are one or two Democrats that might go along or might back up if they got some pressure from home. So it's time for Missourians to speak up.
Well, Robin, we appreciate all that you've been doing, not only in Missouri, but really across the country, helping other legislators move forward as you had the first SAFE Act passed there in Arkansas successfully. And so I'm going to encourage folks in Missouri, and we have lots of listeners in Missouri, to go to the website, tonyperkins.com, and get the talking points, the action items, and weigh in between now and 6 p.m. on Monday. And thanks so much for joining us on this Friday afternoon.
Well, thank you. And thank you for all you're doing to save families in Arkansas. It makes a big difference. And I'm just honored to be involved.